I never thought a simple DNA test would shatter everything I believed about my family. It started as a Christmas gift from my husband, one of those trendy ancestry kits that everyone was doing. It'll be fun, he said, to learn about your heritage. If only we knew how that innocent gift would unravel decades of carefully constructed lies. I'm Sarah, 32, and until 3 months ago, I thought I knew exactly who I was. My parents, both successful academics at the local university, raised me in a comfortable suburban home in Massachusetts. I had what most would consider a picture-perfect childhood. Piano lessons, summer camps, and family vacations to Europe. My father, with his distinguished gray hair and wire-rimmed glasses, always seemed the epitome of intellectual authority. My mother, elegant and poised, was the perfect complement to his academic presence. The DNA kit sat on my dresser for weeks after Christmas. I finally decided to do it one rainy Sunday afternoon in March, mainly to stop my husband from asking about it. The process was simple enough. Spit in a tube, seal it up, and mail it off. I barely thought about it for the next few weeks, occasionally joking with colleagues about discovering some long-lost royal ancestry. 6 weeks later, the email arrived. "Your DNA results are ready," it announced cheerfully. I was in my office grading papers. I followed my parents' footsteps into academia when I clicked the link. The ethnicity results were interesting, but not surprising, mostly European, as expected. But then I noticed something odd in the DNA matches section. There was a close family match, someone sharing about 25% of my DNA. The name was unfamiliar. Robert Callahan. According to the site, this person was likely my uncle or half-sibling. This made no sense. I'm an only child, and I know all my uncles. My father has one brother, and my mother is an only child. Confused, I clicked through to see more details. That's when I noticed Robert had left a message. "I think we might be related through James Morrison. He was my father." My heart stopped. James Morrison. I'd never heard that name before, but according to this stranger, he was somehow connected to my DNA. My father's name is Thomas Wells. It has always been Thomas Wells. With trembling hands, I opened another browser tab and searched for James Morrison in our city's history. The first result was an obituary from 5 years ago. The photograph made me drop my coffee mug, sending hot liquid across my desk. The man in the picture had my eyes, my nose, the same dimple in my chin that I see every morning in the mirror. I sat there staring at this stranger's face that somehow held pieces of my own while my mind raced through every childhood memory, every family story, every moment that I thought defined who I was. The comfortable certainty of my identity began to crack. That evening, I couldn't focus on anything. My husband noticed something was wrong when I barely touched my dinner. "Just work stress," I lied. But inside, I was wrestling with 1,000 questions. Should I confront my parents? What else didn't I know? Who was James Morrison to me? And why had I never heard his name? Little did I know, this was just the beginning. The DNA test hadn't just uncovered a secret family, it had opened a door to a past that would change everything I thought I knew about myself and the people who raised me. After discovering that first DNA match, I spent the next week in a daze, torn between confronting my parents and digging deeper on my own. I chose the latter, and what I uncovered made my initial discovery seem like just the tip of an iceberg. I reached out to Robert Callahan through the DNA website. His response came within hours, and the information he shared left me sleepless for days. According to him, James Morrison, my apparent biological father, had been a prominent researcher at the same university where my parents worked. Not just any researcher, but a pioneer in genetic studies during the 1980s. The irony of discovering this through a DNA test wasn't lost on me. But here's where things got truly disturbing. Robert shared old photographs and newspaper clippings. One particular article from 1990 caught my attention. It detailed a scandal at the university involving misappropriated research funds and ethical violations in genetic studies. The article mentioned 3 names: James Morrison, Thomas Wells, my father, and my mother, Eleanor Wells. They had all worked on the same research team. I found myself sitting in the university library's archive section, surrounded by old documents and microfiche records. My hands shook as I pieced together a story that seemed more suited to a thriller novel than my life. The research team had been working on groundbreaking genetic therapy procedures. James Morrison was the lead researcher, my mother his primary assistant, and my father, the man who raised me, was the project's financial administrator. The scandal broke just months before my birth. James Morrison was forced to resign, his career in ruins. My father suddenly received a promotion, and my mother took an extended leave of absence. The timing couldn't have been coincidental. I was staring at a photograph from an old university newsletter when another shock hit me. In it, my mother stood between James Morrison and my father at a research gala. She was wearing a distinctive emerald necklace, the same one she had given me on my 16th birthday, claiming it was a family heirloom from her grandmother. That evening, I received another message from Robert. "There's something else you should know," he wrote. "Your mother's name appears on several private patents filed by my father just before the scandal. Patents that later made Thomas Wells a very wealthy man. My whole childhood, the comfortable home, the expensive schools, the European vacations, had been built on what? Stolen research? Blackmail? An affair gone wrong?" I confronted my mother first, choosing a public cafe for the conversation. I thought it would keep things civil. I was wrong. When I mentioned James Morrison's name, she knocked over her coffee cup and went ghostly pale. "Who told you that name?" she demanded, her usual composure completely shattered. I placed the DNA test results on the table. "Why don't you tell me about the research project, Mom? About the patents? About why I look so much like James Morrison?" She grabbed her purse and stood up so quickly her chair fell backwards. "You have no idea what you're getting into, Sarah. Some things are better left in the past." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "If you know what's good for you, you'll drop this right now." But her reaction only confirmed what I was beginning to suspect. This wasn't just about an affair or stolen research. There was something darker lurking beneath the surface. Something that made my mother, always the picture of poise and control, react with genuine fear. As I watched her hurry away from the cafe, I realized I had 2 choices: heed her warning and try to return to my normal life, or keep pulling at the threads of this mystery, even if it unraveled everything I thought I knew about my family. I chose to keep pulling. The truth, when it finally emerged, was more devastating than anything I could have imagined. It took 3 more months of investigation, countless sleepless nights, and one final confrontation that would forever change my family dynamics. After my mother's warning at the cafe, strange things started happening. My office at the university was broken into, though nothing was taken. My husband noticed a car following us on several occasions.
Then came the anonymous email containing encrypted files from 1990, research documents that had supposedly been destroyed decades ago. With Robert Callahan's help, we managed to decrypt them. What we found was horrifying. The genetic research project hadn't just been about therapy, it had been about genetic enhancement, using unauthorized human trials. My mother hadn't just been James Morrison's assistant, she had been one of the test subjects. And I was the result. I confronted both my parents together at their home, armed with undeniable evidence. My father, Thomas Wells, broke down first. We were trying to create something revolutionary, he admitted, his hands trembling, a way to enhance human genetics, to eliminate diseases before birth. James, he was brilliant, but reckless. My mother, finally dropping her protective facade, revealed the full story. She and James Morrison had fallen in love during the project. When she discovered she was pregnant, they planned to leave together, taking their research with them. But Thomas Wells had discovered their plans. "Your father threatened to expose everything," she said, looking at me with tears in her eyes. "James would have gone to prison. I made a choice." The choice was a deal with Thomas Wells. She would marry him, give him credit for key parts of the research, and in return, he would bury the evidence of the illegal trials. James Morrison was forced out, his reputation destroyed, never knowing I was his daughter. But I wasn't about to let this lie continue. With Robert's help, I gathered all the evidence, the original research papers, the true patent documentation, and DNA proof of my parentage. I didn't want revenge. I wanted justice and truth. I took everything to a trusted journalist. This story broke like a thunderbolt. Prestigious university's dark secret, illegal genetic trials, and decades of deception. My father, Thomas Wells, resigned in disgrace. The university launched a full investigation. My mother finally began therapy, dealing with decades of guilt and suppressed trauma. As for me, I found something unexpected in the aftermath: peace. Robert and I became close, sharing stories about James Morrison, who, despite his flaws, had been a man of vision and passion. The emerald necklace? It had been his gift to my mother, a symbol of their real love. The university eventually established an ethics review board in response to the scandal, with me as one of its founding members. We created guidelines to prevent similar incidents, ensuring that scientific ambition would never again override human dignity. My husband stood by me through everything, helping me build a new identity, not as Sarah Wells, daughter of Thomas and Eleanor, but as Sarah Morrison Wells, a woman who refused to let buried truths stay hidden. Today, when students ask me about ethics and research, I tell them my story, not to condemn my parents, but to remind them that every scientific advancement must be weighed against its human cost. The truth, however painful, must always come to light. The DNA test that started this journey sits in my office now, framed alongside a photograph of James Morrison. It's a reminder that sometimes the most important discoveries aren't made in laboratories, but in the courage to face uncomfortable truths and the strength to stand up for what's right. My mother still wears the emerald necklace, but now when I see it, I no longer see a lie. I see a reminder that love, even when buried under decades of deception, can survive in unexpected ways.